Myself Padmaja, Associate Professor, Department of CSE, Institute of Aeronautical Engineering, Hyderabad. Today we are going to discuss about the conditional branching statements in C language. Now, this is also known as decision making and branching statements in C language. Now, what for this decision making statements are used? Now, the conditional statements in C programming are used to make decision based on certain conditions. Now, there are different types of conditional statements in C. First one is called the simple if statement, then if else statement, then nested if else statement, if else if ladder, and the final one is called the switch case statement. Now, today we are going to discuss about the different types of conditional branching statements. Let us start with the simple if statement. Now, before going for the simple if statement, let us have a look at all the decision making statements. So you can categorize into broadly two types. One is if else type, if else statements, and your switch statements. So under your if else, you can have the simple if, then if else if ladder, then nested if. So same kind of your classification in a different format. So you can say decision making statements can be broadly categorized into two types: if else statements and switch case statements. Under if else, you have simple if else if ladder, and nested if, and then switch case statement. Let us discuss one by one. Now, how to do decision making with if statement? Now, the single if statement or the simple if statement in C language is used to execute the code if the condition is true. This is also known as one-way selection statement. That means using the if statement, we are writing a condition. That condition, if it is evaluated to true, then a block of statements or the block of code will be executed. If the condition is false, then nothing will be executed. So you can see the syntax was if followed by any expression. So this is a test expression. This expression will be evaluated to true or false. So if this expression is true, then only this block of code will be executed. If it is false, then nothing will be done. So if you look at the flow chart, see the if condition, some condition is verified over here. So if the condition is true, then the if block will be executed. If the condition becomes false, then nothing is executed and it will continue the normal flow of execution. Now, let us go for one example. For example, you want to read a number and check whether the number is even or not. So, if the number is even, then the program is going to display the statement that the number is even. But if the number is odd, then it is not doing anything. With the simple if statement, how to write the program, let us see. Now, first of all, we are declaring a number. Initially, number is equal to 0. And first read a number by writing a printf statement, enter the number, and read the number by writing %d %n. That means you are providing the address of the number n and the number will be stored into that location. Now, after reading the number, check the condition, the number modulus 2. So, to check the even or condition, if the number modulus 2 is equal to 0, then the number is an even number. So, if this condition is true, then we are printing that the number is even. So, the output you will get, suppose you are entering the number is equal to 10, you will get 10 number is even. But if you will enter any number for n is equal to 11, then this condition becomes false and this statement will not be executed. So, you will not get any output on the screen. This is the uses of simple if statement. Now, let us go for the if else statement. So, in the single if statement in C language, will be executing the code if the condition is only true. But what if the condition is false? So, in the if else statement, there are two blocks, if block and else block. If the condition is true, then certain statements are executed. If the condition becomes false, then some other statements are executed. Let us see the flow diagram. So, in the if condition, one condition is checked. If the condition is true, then the set of statements which is inside the if block will be executed. If the condition becomes false, then the other set of statements which is inside the else block will be executed. So, you can see the syntax here. So, if expression, this expression will be evaluated to either true or false. So, if it is true, then this is the true block. this true block of statements will be executed, and if it is false, then this is called the false block of statements will be executed. So this is the simple syntax of if else. Now let us understand through one example. Now here also we'll take the same example. We'll read a number and check whether the number is even or odd. So in the earlier example, we have seen that if the number is odd, then it was not doing anything. Now in this case, we'll write down the else part. If the number is even, then it will print that it is an even number. Otherwise, it will print that it is an odd number. So let us first discuss about it. So first of all, you have to read a number by writing a printf and scanf statement that enter a number. Now after reading the number, you write down the condition that the number modulus 2 is equal to 0. So if you will divide a number by 2, if the remainder is 0, then obviously it is this condition is true and it is an even number. So if the condition is true, then it will print that the number is even. But if the condition is false, then it will come to the else block and it will print that the number is odd. So you can see the output. If you will enter n value as 10, then it will print n number is even. But in the second test case, if you will give the number as 5, then it will come to the else block and it will print that the 5 number is odd. So this way, if else statements are executed. Now, if you have more than one condition to be tested, one within the another, then you have to go for a nested if else statement. Now, the nested if else statement is used when a program requires more than one test condition, and it is also known as a multi-way selection statement. Whenever you have multiple conditions to be tested, and for each condition some part of the or some block of code you want to execute, then you can go for a nested if else statement. Now, when a series of decisions are involved in a statement, we can use the nested form of if else statement. Now let us see what is the syntax of it. So suppose there is a outer if condition is there. This is called the outer if condition. Now if this condition is evaluated to true, then it will come inside and it will check the inner if condition. So if this inner if condition is also true, then it will execute this block of statements. So here the outer if statement, if it is true, then it will come to the inner if statement. Then both the conditions are true, then it will check this inner block of statements. Now, if the inner if condition is evaluated to false, but the outer if condition is true, but the inner if condition is false, then it will come to else part and it will execute the block 2, the statements which are there in the else block. Okay. Now, what will happen if the outer if condition is false? If the outer if condition is false, then this whole part will not be executed. Then it will directly jump into the else part. And in the else part, the statements which are there in block 3 will be executed. So like that, you can write any level of nesting to test the multiple conditions. So this is called a nested if else statement. Now let us see one example of it. Suppose you have to read 3 numbers and you have to find out which number is the greatest number or largest number. So for writing this program, we can take the help of a nested if else statement. Now for doing this program, declare 3 variables ABC and then read these 3 numbers ABC values, you read it. Okay. For example, we are reading A is equal to 12, B is equal to 85 and C is equal to 45. These 3 numbers are you are giving input from the standard input device. Now let us check the outer if condition. So in the outer if we have written that A greater than B, that means A value is 12. Is it greater than B value 85? So we have written one condition, A greater than B. So this condition 12 is greater than 5, this condition evaluates to false. So if it is evaluates to false, directly control comes to the else part. Okay, directly control comes to the else part. Then it checks another condition that B is greater than C. What is the value of B? B is 85. Is it greater than C? That is 45. Yes, it is true. So if this, in the else part, if this condition is true, then it will print that your B is greatest value. So it will print that 85 is greatest over here. Now let us take some other example. Suppose A is equal to 85, then B is equal to 12 and C is equal to 45. If you will take this input like this, then what will happen? Now, let us understand this example. Okay. Now, first, the outer if condition you are checking A is greater than B. What is the value of A? A is 85. Is it greater than B value? 12. 85 is greater than 12. Yes, it is true. So, if it is true, then it is coming to the inner if condition. In the inner if condition, A is greater than C. So, that means you are comparing A value with B once and then with C. So, what is the value of A? It is 85. What is the value of C? Is 45. So, again the condition is true. That means A is greater than both B and C. If A is greater than both B and C, then obviously A is the greatest value. So, it will print this part that A is greatest. Okay. So, in this way, the nested if else condition is executed. So, you can try with different values of A, B, C and you can check the multiple conditions which is set over here or defined over here. Now, similarly, there is another your multipath decision statement available that is called if else if ladder. That means this is also your multipath decision statement. When you have more than one condition to be tested, then you can go for if else if ladder. Now, this if else if ladder or statement is execute one code from multiple conditions. Now, it is also known as the multipath decision statement. Now, you can simply say that it is a chain of if-else statements in which each of the statement is associated with a else-if statement. If none of the if conditions are true, then finally it is going to execute the last else statement. So, how it is done? Let us see the syntax first. Okay. Now, first we are checking the first condition, if condition. So, if this condition is true, then the other conditions are not tested at all. Okay. Now, if this condition is false, then it is going to test the next else if condition. So, in the else if condition, second condition is tested. If this condition is true, then it will stop over here. It will only execute this block and it will stop and the remaining part of the code will not be executed. Suppose the second condition is also false, then it is going to check the third condition. So, if the third condition is true, then only this block of statements will be executed and the remaining are skipped. Now, if the third condition is false, then it is going to check the fourth condition. Then it is going to check the fifth condition and so on. So, in the if-else if ladder, you can write n number of conditions. If all the n number of conditions are false, then finally it will go to the final else block and whatever is the default statements written in the final else block, that will be executed. So, this is called multipath decision statement in C language. So, you can write multiple conditions by writing if else if ladder up to n number of conditions you can write. There is no restriction about it. Now, let us see the flowchart of if else if ladder. Now, if the first condition is true, then the if block will be executed and then it will come outside the if condition. Otherwise, if the first if condition is false, then it will go for the second if condition checking. If it is true, then it will check, then it will execute the else if block of that particular condition and it will come out of this if else condition. Then otherwise it will check the third condition. If it is true, then it will execute this block and then it will come out. If it is false, then it will go on checking the next conditions, so on. If none of the conditions are true, and simply it will finally execute the last else block and it will come out of this if else if ladder. Now, let us consider one example. Suppose you are reading a number and you are checking that whether the number is divisible by 5 and 8 or not. So, how to do this? Suppose, first of all, you have to read a number. So, you have declared a variable int a and you are reading a number from the keyboard. Okay. After reading the number, write down the first condition. If the number is divisible by 5 and also divisible by 8. So, a modulus 5 is equal to 0 and a modulus 8 is equal to 0. That means the number is divisible by both 5 and 8. Then what you are printing? That this number is divisible by both 5 and 8, and if this condition is true, then the rest of the code is simply skipped. It will come out of the code and it will execute the normal rest of the C program. If this condition is false, if the first condition is false, then it will come to the first else if condition. In the else if condition, you are checking whether the number is only divisible by 8. So if it is true, then you are printing that divisible by 8. Now, if the second condition is also false, then it will check the third condition, that whether it is divisible by only by 5. So, if it is true, then you will print it is divisible by 5. If it is false, then finally it is going to the else block and it is divisible by none. So, in this way, we are writing multiple conditions to check whether the number is divisible by both 5 and 8 or not, divisible by only 8 or divisible by only 5, or the number is not at all divisible by 5 or 8. So, this way we are checking the multiple conditions. Now, there is one more multi-way selection statement that is called the switch case statement. Now, switch case statement is actually a substitute for long if-else-if ladder. So, if-else-if ladder, if you have n number of conditions to be tested, then either you can write if-else-if ladder, otherwise you can take the substitute that is called the switch case statement. Now, this is used to test a list of conditions or n number of conditions. Now, for each condition, you have to write down one case label. So, here, one case labels you have to write. So, more than one case label you have to write. If none of the cases are true, then there is a default label available. Then that default statement will be executed. Now, in a switch case statement, default statement is not mandatory to write. But if you want, you can write down the default statement which will be executed if none of the case labels are true. Okay. Now, when the expression will match to a particular case, then that associated statement will be executed and you will break from the switch case. Now, let us first see what is the syntax. So, keyword is switch followed by one test expression. So, if this expression is true, then only you will go inside the switch case block. Now, if this condition is true, if this expression is true, then you check what is the value of this expression. Is it matching with any of the case values? So, the value will be first checked with the first case label. So, case followed by one value is written over here. So, it is matching with that value. Then this set of statements associated with that case will be executed and then it will break from the switch case. It will come out of the switch case. Okay. If you do not write break, then automatically it will go for the second case and it will try to execute. Then third case and so on. So, that's why break is mandatorily written in the switch case so that you can break once the case label is matching. After executing that particular block, you should exit from switch case. So, for that reason, break is required. Now, if the first case label is not matching, then normally it will go for checking the second case label. If it is matching, then the associated statements are executed. If not, then it will go for checking the third case label. So, this is happening sequentially. So, one case after the other case sequentially, it will go on matching. So, wherever there is a match found, it will execute that associated those statements. Otherwise, if none of the case labels are matching, then finally it will go to the default statement. So, in the default, whatever statements are there, it will execute and then it will come out of the switch case. So, for the default statement, break is not required if you write nothing wrong. Otherwise, because default is normally written at the end of the switch case, that is at the last statement of the switch case. So, after default, you need not write a break statement because automatically it will come out of the switch case. Now, let us see one example. Now, first see the flow diagram. So, if there is a switch conditional statement is there, now you have to evaluate that statement. So, if it is that the value which is evaluated from the switch case, if it is matching with the case 1, then if it is true, then the associated statements are executed and it is break. It will come out of the switch case. If it is false, then it will check the case 2, then the set of statements will be executed, then it will come out of the switch case. Like that, multiple conditions are tested If none of the conditions are true, then the final default will be executed and then it will come out of the switch case. So this is a simple multi-way selection statement. Now, let us understand one C program for it. So, for example, suppose there are 4 days and you have been given a choice to give your choice of which day you want. So, suppose there is a character variable n to give your choice, and suppose there are 4 days, your Sunday, Monday, Tuesday and Thursday. These 4 days have been given and we are asking that give your choice. So, read your choice first. So, based on your choice, if your choice is S, if your choice can be either S or M or T or your H, suppose for example, then based on your choice, n value is nothing but a character value. It can be either S or M or T or H. So if it is S, then you print Sunday and break. You come out of the switch case. If your choice is not S, if your choice is M, then first case label is not matching, then it will go for the second case label. So if it is M, then it will print Monday and it will come out. Like that, one by one it will test. Suppose if your choice is some X is the character you have given, then none of the cases are true. So it will go to default, then it will print the statement out of choice. So this way, the switch case is executed in C language. Now, let us understand another example of switch case where you want to perform the arithmetic operations using switch case. So, for doing the arithmetic operations, for example, you want to do plus, minus, multiplication and division, these 4 arithmetic operations. If you want, you can write for modulus also. So, for that, we have to read the numbers. So, we are reading 2 integer numbers and we are reading one operator, that which operation you want to do, plus or minus or multiplication or division. Now, so you first read the operator and read the 2 numbers. So, printf scanf for reading the 2 numbers. So, after reading the numbers, you are asking, using the switch case, you are giving the operator. So, if your operator will be plus, then the case label plus is matching. So, case followed by the label. Label is plus. If it is plus, then what you are doing? You are doing n1 plus n2 and you are displaying the value. Okay, then you are breaking from it. That means the remaining other operation will not be carried out. Then, if your case label is not plus, it is suppose minus, then it will come to the second case. After checking the first case label, then it will come to the second case label. If it is minus, then it will do n1 minus n2 and it will break. Like that. If it is not minus, then it will check whether it is multiplication. If it is true, then it will do n1 into n2. But at a time, only one operation will be performed. So, if your case label is not matching with all these 4, then it will go for default. So, when you run it, you can see we are asking the operator. Suppose the operator is plus, then the first case level is matching. We are reading 2 numbers 10 and 20 and it is showing the output 10 plus 20 is equal to 30. If your operator is minus, then it will do your 20 minus 10. So, if the operator is multiplication, it will do your 10 into, what is the value? 10 into 20 it will do. Otherwise, division, then it will do. Depends upon what number you have given the input. So, this way, switch case statement is executed. Thank you so much. In this video, you have learned about the conditional branching statements in C language like simple if else, your nested if, and then if else if ladder followed by switch case statement. Thank you.
Like, share and subscribe. Hit the bell icon for more updates.